All right.
There we go.
Now we are live. I think. Wait for it. All right. Looks like we are officially live here, gentlemen. So Mortgage Loan Officer Network, appreciate you joining us today. So something a little bit different today. I am actually going to be leading this conversation right here. And we're going to let Michael Fisher and his team really talk about their new product, but it's much more than a product, I would say. I think it's a passion. It's something that they've dedicated themselves to as far as really putting themselves out there. And it's something that I can tell you guys just from knowing most of you, for years now, and to see where you guys have come from, right? You started off as an idea and a concept, and to really see you guys have grown into building something that's transforming lives both within the industry and outside of the industry is just something that's been great to watch. And for what it's worth, just super proud of you guys, and I'm proud to just be associated with you in this just a little bit. So you guys are great for the industry, you're great for the community. But Fish, today you're part of the person being interviewed. Tell us a little bit about what this group has going on here.
Well, TJ, you know me. I'm not a huge fan of selling. I kind of just show up and talk until people say, fine, I'll sign whatever the heck it is. And that's always been my strategy. When I was a young loan officer, I used to get criticized for it. And, hey, Fish, you have more hours on the phone than anybody else. But over the years, it's done me good. I've tried as hard as I could to help people and try to kind of stick with that as I build a team and as I try to help LOs around the country. Today we didn't want to sell anything. We didn't want to kind of dive into training products. We wanted to share the kind of things that we love, which is helping veterans get into homes and talking about one of the biggest challenges in today's market, which is actually having the vet get their offer accepted. So, we thought maybe we'll break down some of the perceptions and some of the challenges that we see as folks who work with more veterans than the average bear, if you will. And, maybe at the end we can talk a little bit about something that we're doing. You'll see some of the slides here have some logos, Veteran Mortgage Advisor. It's something we've been working on for a few months. I guess a product, if you will, training if you create it, that we've been creating. And these gentlemen here with me, Alex, Brad, and Steven, some of my closest friends, along with you over the last few years, have been working alongside me to help create the content and the training modules, etc. So
I appreciate you throwing me in there as part of your closest friends. So I definitely appreciate that. But before we go ahead and AJ got that joke. So before we go too much further into what you want to talk about today, introduce the team. Like a little bit of a background for everyone that's on here, just so the folks that are watching know or kind of get an idea of who's presenting today.
Got it. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves, but I'm going to go real quick. My friend AJ in Nashville, I didn't even know the numbers, but he did a bajillion VA loans last year. Brad Stinson, my good friend from Grand Rapids, Michigan, was a new LO a few years ago. Again, did a bajillion VA loans last year. Steven Brand, my friend out in Minnesota, same thing, did a bajillion VA loans last year. We've been working together on these types of projects for a long time. So guys, just share just a quick 30-second about yourself. Maybe AJ, you go first.
I always get to go first. So, no, my name's Alex. I go by AJ. Most of you should know who I am. If not, obviously my branding isn't working as well as I thought it was. I've been in the industry 16 years. I originated my first VA loan about 14 years ago with a company called Franklin American back in the wholesale days. So VA has kind of been my thing before VA was a thing. I remember they came out and they handed out a little booklet that says, here's how you do a VA loan. And you read it from cover to cover, and that's how you did it. The biggest thing is this isn't a marketing gimmick or ploy for me. It's a passion. And the difference behind that is obviously the way we go about doing things. Sometimes you've got to go the extra mile. I've got a client right now, for example. We did some rapid rescore, some credit updating, things like that. He got PCS orders to make a move. And in just over 40 days, we've got to get this thing put together. And the guy technically doesn't qualify right now, but we've done what we need to do. So again, it's not just something to close loans or do business. It's a passion and something that we do to make sure we're best serving those who have served for us.
pass it over to Brad. What's up, Brad?
What's up, Fish? What's up, fellas? Good to see your faces. My name is Brad Stinson, the Mortgage Marine. I work with AJ at the Veterans Homefront at Benchmark Mortgage. I got into the loan officer world damn near 4 years ago. A couple days past my 4-year anniversary. I served in the Marine Corps for 4 years, 2004 to 2008. And as with most veterans, I kind of struggled with the transition home, being a little punk for about 5 years. And it wasn't until I was able to purchase a home using my VA home loan benefit that I really allowed myself to transition. I had a new purpose in life. And coupled with a couple Marines that I served with had killed themselves, I realized that what changed my life was buying a home. And it's with that I do what I do now. I specialize in VA. It's all I do. 100%. Well, I shouldn't say 100%. It's more like 98% of my business is VA, because I want to give back to my brothers. I want to take care of them. I took care of them when we were overseas, and I'm going to take care of them now. So that's what I do. Me in a nutshell. Steven, you're up.
Yeah,
Thanks,
follow that one, Steven. So
yeah, I'll do my best. Steve Brand. I'm in the Minneapolis market, Minnesota, and Western Wisconsin. And I started in the mortgage business about 20 years ago. And I didn't write my first VA loan until I was in the business 10 years. So in 2011 is when I first did a VA loan. And it was because of the transaction itself. And I tell the story when I'm doing my myth busting classes with real estate agents. That actually caused me to learn more about VA loans, to learn that at the time, and the stats aren't too different now, 47% of veterans are not put into VA loans. And what I learned is that it was because of the loan officer that I was, is the reason that I didn't do it, is because I was lazy and ignorant. I was putting people into loans that were easier for me to do, that I knew and understood. And the ignorant part is because I didn't understand VA loans. I listened to what everyone else was telling me. They're a pain in the ass. The appraisal sucks. All these things. So I'm like, okay, let's do these other programs instead. And I never asked my borrowers, are you a veteran? Did you serve in the military? And so that is really what learned, that stat. And then I learned how good the program is, kind of put me on a trajectory for my mission to continue to serve veterans and do what I do. Over 50% of my business for years has been VA loans because of that one transaction in 2011, after I was in the business for 10 years. So that's my story. It's not, I didn't serve in the military like Brad did. I view my job as serving today.
I'm going to jump in real quick because that's a great point to make. You didn't serve in the military. AJ did not. Fish did not. TJ did not.
This is how I view I serve today.
Exactly. So that's part of what we're doing today on this call.
I love it. So you guys all shared some fairly important, what I would maybe say, bullet points. And I think the main challenge here for a lot of veterans is learning what's going on with their VA home loan benefits and getting their offer accepted. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
100%.
It's all right. Hopefully this works. If it doesn't, we're just gonna roll with it. But I'm gonna try to see if I can scroll. All right, you guys tell me if this is working, okay?
all right. Yep, you're sharing your screen, buddy.
Your screen? Okay. So I'm just gonna old school. This is how I used to do Hangouts. I'm actually gonna do a little bit of a slideshow here, and we might pass the mic around a little bit, but ultimately, I'm hopefully going to lead a little, and TJ, you can stop me if you want to ask more questions. All right, so the challenge, as you guys laid out, the perception perhaps of the VA home loan in the marketplace, the lack of education, and kind of what's going on with the lenders, the agents, and the veterans. Brad, can you talk a little bit first about the veteran perception, like their knowledge base and what they may or may not know?
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest things that every veteran goes through or builds up to during their time in service is what's called a TAPS class. It's a transition class. For me, back in my day, it was a 8-hour death by PowerPoint taught by the VA about these fantastic benefits that we have just earned. Now, who's heard the adage, when the student's ready, the teacher appears, right? That's 100% what is going on in the veteran's head, okay? Because for the past 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, however many years, been building up this last out processing class. I was 26 years old, went to combat twice. Was my mind on buying a home? Absolutely not. All right. So the 2 hours that were dedicated to the VA home loan benefit, I tuned it out. It was a mandatory thing. I had to be there. I took a couple things away from what the VA said, like, hey, I'm guaranteed a loan. Because that's what damn near every veteran thinks. But the biggest, most important rule when dealing with a veteran is never, ever assume that we know our benefits. We do not know our benefits, period.
So that's
right, so
I would say, Brad, the concept of what we're doing today around having loan officers be veteran mortgage advisors is exactly that. The veterans coming to us as loan officers and expecting that we're professionals and we know what we're doing, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, I fell victim to it using my VA home loan benefit twice. Okay?
I'm surprised you said that there's even 2 hours spent on the VA home loan benefit. I've heard other people say that it's 10 minutes.
It was 12, 14 years ago. I mean,
right.
It seemed like 2 hours. It very well could have been 20 minutes. I don't know, right? Because my mind wasn't there. Right. I just knew it was an 8-hour mandatory class that I had to go to.
I want to get home.
Right. So Alex,
yeah, exactly.
Get me out of here.
Totally. Alex, from the lender side, you and I see a lot of loan officers. People reach out to us for help all the time. Do you feel that lenders know, in general, what they should know to give the veteran the best advice in those situations?
No, I think the biggest thing is my analyzation of the market. Again, I've been doing this for 16 years. Is you see kind of a wave. It's almost like a trend. Like, hey, these are guaranteed loans. They're easy to underwrite. Let's go after these loans because they're easy. Whereas back in the day, a VA loan wasn't even in question. I mean, pre-2008, like, who was doing VA loans? I can't think of a single person in an office full of 30 other LOs I worked with that even originated a single VA home loan. So, it's become a thing. Like, branch managers and people like that are saying, hey, we gotta do VA loans. We got to do these. We don't know a whole lot about them, but let's just originate them. The fact is, when we do something like that, when you're an uneducated loan officer and you're going out there and you're originating a loan, you're potentially causing damage to the loan process itself, because you put a perception out there to the realtor and to the buyers and the sellers and everybody else involved that this is more difficult. And the biggest scapegoat, and I've heard this from a lot of loan officers, the scapegoat is, well, it's a VA home loan. Okay. Well, the fact is, blaming it on the VA home loan as being the issue versus the person being educated being the actual issue is where we're seeing a lot of disconnect. It's like running a car ragged and not doing any maintenance and blaming it on the manufacturer putting out a shitty product. At the end of the day, we have a responsibility to educate ourselves and do what's best by the veteran. And the fact of the matter is, if I'm in a situation where, let's say I dominate in the conventional arena, that's my space, and a VA loan pops up and I say, oh, God, I don't know a whole lot about these, but this guy's got to get in this home. He's PCSing and he's going to be here in 30 days. My responsibility should be to pass that to, Brad. Hey, Brad, VA home loans. Can you take care of this guy for me? And maybe in turn, there comes a conventional loan that comes my way. But the fact is, it's not about the paycheck. It's about doing what's right for the veteran and making sure that we deliver what it is we promise and make sure that we don't tarnish the name of the VA home loan, and don't use it as a scapegoat. That's the biggest thing. If there's an issue.
Okay, let me jump in here real quick. So let me ask you this. So you just talked about using the product itself as a scapegoat, right? And we have all seen that happen. We, as loan officers, we hear that all the time. Right. And it's part of what we'll talk about today. But for any loan officer that's watching today, that's watching this right now live, want to repeat whatever the case is, they come across their first VA loan. They come across, their second, their fifth, whatever it is. What is the number one mistake? And any of you four can answer this. What is the number one mistake you're seeing that loan officer make before they even go ahead and get started with this?
Eligibility.
I would say eligibility and
absolutely.
Yeah. And the thought process, because here, this is common with underwriters too, is because it's government, they pair it with FHA. They know FHA and they assume VA, government, FHA, government, it's all the same. And so you start mixing those together. And that goes for underwriters too. I mean, the fact of the matter is, look, underwriters are human beings. They're not perfect, but you will tend to see that they will pair those two things together when indeed they're actually very, very different.
So yeah, that happens a lot. We've all dealt with that. But Brad, I want to jump to you now with this eligibility. So for people who are watching, they don't understand what that is. And this could be someone who's either in the business or someone who's looking at selling their home because it's a hot market right now and the VA offer is presented to them, right? Explain what eligibility is and why it's so important that the mortgage professional has or obtains that eligibility prior to doing anything with a VA loan.
Well, with the VA home loan, there's two different components to it, right? There's qualification. That's your credit history, your income, your assets, so on and so forth. Then there's eligibility, right? Eligibility has been earned through their enlistment, okay? This is the one verifiable proof that the veteran has earned the VA home loan benefit. And how do they earn it? Well, they have to serve 90 or more days on active duty, serve 6 creditable years, and receive an honorable discharge in the Reserve or National Guard, or be activated on Title 10, Title 32 orders for a duration of time and receive an honorable discharge. Now, that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot more to eligibility, and the only people that have the authority to issue the provide that is the VA. And it's all done through the most important document in our world. It's the COE, Certificate of Eligibility. A VA home loan will never, ever, 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 ever close without one, period. And I know that I do. I know AJ does. I know Steven, Fish. We all pulled the COE on the very first consultation call with the veteran. Why? Because we're the captain of the ship here, man. Like, we know we want to prove that we are the authority, right? So how do we prove that we're the authority? Well, if you try to pull a COE for a reservist, which I'm in the land of the reserves, I deal with it all the time. Try to pull a COE for a reservist. You're going to need to provide evidence that they've earned the VA home loan. They've met their time in service, right? So you start asking them for the proper documentation up front. You've just won them over 1,000 times over. Not only them, but their entire unit. And that's huge.
So if you're a real estate agent that's watching this, if you're a seller, first thing you should ask the mortgage loan officer that presents you with that pre-approved letter is what?
Do you have a copy of the COE? Right. And if the answer is no, that person's that home buyer, that veteran, is not really pre-approved.
So, Stephen, let me ask you this.
Why are we hammering it? Because it happens all the time with the 1-800 and call center people.
Hey, guys, I did that. I made that mistake about a month ago. Luckily, I remembered all the lessons that Fish has pounded into my head about that, but I got an application, online app. I took it. I was rocking and rolling. Things looking good. It's like a $500,000 file. I'm already counting the money in my head on this. And I'm getting ready to status it as a pre-approval and send out the letter. And my boss says, hey, where's the COE? I'm like, oh, crap, hold on. Let me go pull it. Uh-oh. Guess what?
He didn't have it.
Yeah, didn't have it. And so I went and pulled it. It couldn't qualify. So luckily, again, I got saved from my own mistake on that I knew, but it's so important that we get that. So Fish, let's go ahead and move into this here. You got the presentation right here. Again, today is talking about, getting your VA offer accepted, why a VA offer is such a strong offer that, again, if you are selling a home, whether you're, selling your home or you're the real estate agent that's representing, the listing agent that's representing someone selling their home, why they should really look into the VA offer, take it as seriously. They're probably, in our opinion, the number one offer here. Fish, why don't you go ahead and kind of give us your opinion on that and why the VA offer is such a strong offer?
We've been sitting on this little slide here for a while, and lender, agent, and veteran alike, the perception sometimes is a little twisted, and you can see just from these conversations that if the lender makes a mistake and the veteran doesn't know what they're doing, it could be very hard for the agent to come through and deliver, between a buyer and seller. So those kind of things I think have happened over the years. Maybe they weren't intentional, but unfortunately, it kind of created this perception in the agent community that the loans weren't as good. And I think a lot of the things that we hear on the VA loan in the lending world, we might call them myths. And I'm going to jump into that slide next. Well, actually 2 slides. Before I get into that, though, why are these things myths? Well, part of it, like we just talked about, some of these lenders aren't closing their transactions as smoothly as they could. Perhaps the veterans didn't get their eligibility, or the lender didn't know what they were doing. I would ask anybody who's watching this that is a lender, before you go any further in this, or before you think anything else in your head, just ask yourself, do the transactions that you work on, that you own as a lender, that are in your name, that have your name at the bottom of the application, do they close smoothly? And if they don't, what is the problem? Ask yourself that before you watch any more of this video. Now, the myths that I'm talking about in the real estate community, there's more than this. These are the most common ones, but I think everybody else on this call here will probably agree. We've heard all of these and more over the years. Oh, zero down. The vet doesn't have any skin in the game. We don't really like that one. Oh my gosh, they're hard to get through underwriting. They take forever to close. The seller has to pay all the fees. You can only have one VA loan. I don't think that vet can get another one. The appraisals are impossible. So, without getting too sidetracked, everybody that's on this call, you guys have all heard these again and again, right?
Oh yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So
hear the appraisal one almost every day, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I would argue that the first thing you need to do to actually address some of these things is to better yourself, to understand what these questions are and how to answer them. So one of the things that we were looking to build when we started building the Veteran Mortgage Advisor course was a community where people could learn these things, so they could answer these challenges, so they could have these conversations from a point of knowledge and experience, if you will. So I wanted to actually just take a quick second to show you one example of how we would address an objection that comes up at the time of offer. Just one example from hours of classes that we have. This is a pretty darn common example. Alex, Brad, Steven, do you guys want to take this, or do you guys want me to take this?
I mean, it's definitely something we could take, especially right now with the way that the industry is headed. The 2 processes. So this is something you see a lot with realtors, and this is where we need to.
So Alex, we're going to take this, and this is an example of how we could help educate realtors and get an offer accepted, right?
Right, 100%.
Okay. And this is specifically addressing the VA appraisals are tougher. They never come in. They're hard to get through, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, so the biggest thing is in today's market, homes are selling for over asking price. Well, wouldn't it be nice to know early on in the process versus when the appraisal is finally delivered, if that's the case with a purchase that you have going on? I do want to pair one thing when I say this. So when I talk about Tidewater and reconsideration of value, bear in mind from an asset standpoint, the average veteran has almost as much in liquid assets as the average conventional buyer. The difference is 100% financing. The reason why I bring this up is because the common belief in today's market is that, well, if I do VA, the appraisal comes in low, it's a dead deal. I should just take the conventional buyer over here. They can cover the appraisal gap. The difference is, and I use this example in a previous situation, the difference is if you have an individual, let's say the offer is for $300,000 and they plan on coming in, or I'm sorry, let's say the offer is $330,000, but they plan on coming in with 5% down, and the appraisal comes in short. Well, your conventional buyer has to not only make up for that 5% down, they also have to make up for the appraisal gap, knowing that the VA buyer can make up just the appraisal gap with no additional funds out of pocket for the base loan amount. So they could actually come with less to the table. But circling over to the Tidewater basically allows us to know ahead of time that there is an issue with the value of the home. With homes selling as rapidly as they are currently, this allows the selling and the buying agent to address and provide comps that have closed prior to the inspection date that support the asking price value. The biggest thing is the appraiser then has to address those comps and say, well, hey, I didn't see this comp, my bad, I'm going to use it, or it doesn't work because of this reason. You know, they have to provide some sort of explanation. The fact of the matter is, and look, we're in a group here, we're almost all loan officers in the group. I'm sure there's some agents in here watching this, but the fact is we see hundreds of appraisals a year. There should be nobody better at looking at an appraisal than you, and nobody better at looking at a comp than you besides the appraiser themselves. So when those comps come in, take a look at them before you send them up to the appraiser and say, hey, you know what? Comp number 2, this one's 15 miles away from the subject property. Let's not use this one. Let's find a stronger one. This is a 48-hour turn time, so the appraiser will initiate what's called Tidewater. I always say this joke. I think it's funny. It's not what your kids are drinking. It's what the appraiser is doing to try to deliver the value. And in that window of time, you must deliver that bracketed or that gridded value with the comps in it. Again, the appraiser can review it, and the appraiser could state the value or use those new comps. Now, bear in mind, at this point, the value has not been determined. It is very important to communicate with the realtor. We go back to talking about the proper process and are your transactions smooth. The second that thing comes in and says, hey, we're in Tidewater, that clock for 48 hours starts. If you do not deliver those comps within that window of time, that time will expire and those comps will not be considered. Yes.
Can I add a quick thought to that, Alex?
Yeah.
The notice of Tidewater, that comes out to the point of contact on the order in the VA LGY portal. So this is where I find some loan officers, could maybe sharpen their pencils a little bit. The point of contact for many lenders isn't determined by the loan officer themselves. It's an order desk kind of thing.
Right.
So, if it's your processor, your LOA, your order desk, your compliance team, whoever the heck is placing the order, you got to make sure that team is trained to make sure that the point of contact is somebody who's actually going to get the message, right?
Right.
Not, just the listing agent, but maybe the buyer's agent and the lender itself, so that you don't miss that message. I've seen a lot of lenders, and I know I've made the mistake over the years, not talk to their setup team about how the appraisals are ordered, and then all of a sudden the Tidewater, oh my gosh, we had Tidewater, it's been like 5 days. It's too late. It's only 48 hours, right?
Right. Well, and the big thing to remember too, in this circumstance, you've got to jump to it. You've got to jump to the opportunity. Now, in today's market, there may be an acknowledgement that, hey, we know this thing's not going to appraise for 330. We know it's going to come in short. We're okay with that. I would still encourage gathering those comps, because what if the comp took it from 300 to 305? Now you've covered a smaller gap versus saying, you know what, screw it. They said they knew it was going to come in low. Like, why not take the opportunity to provide a higher loan amount to your veteran based on more recent or more current or more usable comps?
But AJ,
one of the things I was going to jump in real quick too, is at the very beginning of talking about the myths of value and the myths of the appraisal situation is the fact that we have to have real estate agents understand they're the same appraisers.
Right.
That underwrite qualified conventional FHA, everything, and they underwrite VA appraisals as well. And they're following USPAP guidelines. Someone in the chat asked a question about how do we combat that? And that's exactly it. It's the same appraisers following the same guidelines for square footage for everything else. The homes have to have hand railings and no peeling paint. Other than that, it's the same.
Well, and here's the thing. So I had a conventional appraisal come in that somebody issued from a transaction that fell apart before a veteran decided to purchase a property. I could look at that conventional appraisal, and I told the agent this. I said, if this got in the wrong hand, somebody would go to jail over this appraisal. Because the fact is, the VA is not looking at conventional appraisal, so they don't have somebody's eyes saying, hey, this is incorrect here. It says 2,000 square foot, but 500 is below grade, and you're counting it as GLA or gross living area, and you're giving it value for that. Like, the difference is with the VA appraisal, somebody is holding people accountable. Now, as a agent or as a loan officer, it is our responsibility, our financial responsibility, to make sure we put our clients into a loan that is going to benefit them long term. Now, I'm not saying every conventional appraisal is fraudulent or there's issues with it, but if you take two identical models and sit them side by side and they come with two totally different values, where do you think the problem is? The one that's being governed and managed, or the one that's just being shot out there like it's Wild Wild West? Now, your realtor may not agree with that idea because they're after what? They're after a closed loan, and they're after getting that 3% commission check or whatever the case may be. Again, we're not going to use this necessarily to combat, but an appraisal, the format, that everything is the same. Literally, John Smith, who just did the VA home loan appraisal because he's certified through VA to do so, is the same John Smith that did the FHA appraisal down the road and the conventional one right down the road from that. So bear that in mind. These are not different creatures that are coming out of, the VA portal to do these deals. The other thing is, too, very important that you state this, because there has been a thought process that the appraisal is going to determine if the property is in good enough shape in order to allow the veteran to move in without issues. They're only looking for glaring issues. What I tell my clients is the appraisal determines the collateral value, the inspection determines the integrity. And that's very important to signify out to your veterans and your clients, because they need to be aware that, yes, the appraiser may say, hey, there's no downspouts on the gutters, and so you're going to potentially have issues with foundation problems because that's a glaring issue, but they're not getting underneath the house to see if there's foundation problems.
All right, so let's put a bow on this piece right here. So I'm sorry, Brad, go ahead.
Do you want to continue on with the two processes of value? And then
the point you had was that the loan officers need to learn this kind of stuff. We wanted to show them the kind of conversations that, can happen just among lenders. And, you can see that if somebody knows what they're talking about, like Alex or you guys, it's a lot easier to work with the listing agent to help the vet get accepted. So, I think our point wasn't to dive into some of the 3 or 4 hour classes. That's why we created this program. That's why we're doing it so people can sit down and watch.
I got a couple talking points.
Yeah, but go ahead, man. Throw it out there.
Okay, so of all the VA appraisals that were ordered last year, less than 10% went to Tidewater, meaning the value came in low. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a big concern with listing agents, is that, well, the value's not going to be there. Well, no, actually, less than 10% last year did. So that means over 90% came in at value. Okay, but the 3 main S's with the minimum property requirements or the appraisal is it safe, sanitary, structurally sound, right? So I always talk to the buyer's agent, like, look, you're my boots on the ground. I need your help. Like, look through the house with your critical eyes and ask yourself these 3 questions. Is it safe, structurally sound, sanitary? If you have any questions, write it down. We'll discuss it after the fact. You'll be shocked at what is approved by the VA and what's not. Period. Oh, okay, that's great. The people just need you to lead them. You're the captain of the ship. Period.
So if I were a student watching this call, I would write those 3 bullet points down, right?
Yeah, because they get so worked up. Buyers agents and sellers agents get so worked up. Oh my God, they got to do all these repairs and do all this. No, stop what you're doing. Do not dump any money into the home. Let the appraiser call it out, then address it.
Yeah.
And we all know the lender can choose to allow escrow for things like paint. It's a lender call.
And furthermore, with the new Blue Water Act that passed, lenders can self-certify a lot of these repairs.
Yeah.
The only ones that they cannot is cracked and peeling paint. So that's huge. That saves the veteran on the reinspect fee, number 1. Number 2, it expedites the process even quicker. Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, and by the way, the VA appraisal process is the only one that has a strict timeline requirement. Like, they have to be done within a certain amount of time.
Yep.
Which is these days, because one of the biggest complaints we're hearing from people is, hey, when's my appraisal coming in? What we need this in. So let's go ahead, because I know you 4 can geek out on talking about appraisals all day long.
Hey.
It's really, really interesting for the rest of us. But just to kind of recap this, there isn't a special group of VA appraisers just sitting out somewhere just waiting for the bat signal to go up, right? These are the same appraisers that are out there doing FHA, VA, or conventional USDA appraisals. The the client actually has if the appraisal comes in short, the VA borrower actually has a better shot at covering the difference in that, right? Because they don't have to do a 15% or a 10% or a 5% down payment right there. And there are actually mechanisms to alert all parties involved if that appraisal, the value may not come in, and opportunities to go ahead and dispute or support the sales price. So looking at it from the outside looking in, what's wrong with that? That actually seems like they're all value-added components. These are all positive things if we're going ahead and accepting an offer at this time. And us as mortgage professionals and any real estate professionals that are watching this right now, these are important things to understand and make sure that we are sharing and educating our clients and the consumers and the people on the other side of the table so that everyone is coming out a winner on this. So as we go ahead and move on from appraisals, guys, great information as always. Fish, you got a few points up here on this. So there's one thing that I do want to jump on, or two quick points on here that I'd like to address as far as your common myths. And Brad, I want to start with you. One of the most common myths we hear is the 0 down equals a weak buyer, or Fish said this earlier, no skin in the game. As the only one on this call here, right, that has actually been in the military and served, just when you hear that, what are your thoughts and how do you address that?
I laugh now, but it really makes me mad. Okay, so you're telling me that when I was in Iraq, I didn't earn that? That wasn't my skin in the game? Being willing to die for our country, that's not skin in the game? Give me a break, right? But then you overwhelm them with data. You cannot refute the data. I mean, I'm in the Ellie Mae report, not daily, but all the time. I'm looking at the stats. I mean, I have it pulled up right here. If you look at the FICO scores of all the loan programs, I mean, VA in February 2021, the FICO score average was 738. Conventional, or I'm sorry, FHA 675. Right? I mean,
what's a stronger buyer?
Yeah,
that's the question to ask a real estate agent. Who would you rather do a loan for? Someone in the 670s or the 730s?
Or I mean, if you want to compare the conventional FICO, because everybody thinks a conventional buyer is the strongest one because they have the 20% skin in the game, right? Give me a break. That one is, where the hell did it go?
Just so everybody knows, you're looking at the Ellie Mae lending insight reports, right?
Only 3 points difference in the FICO score.
Mm-hmm.
Only 3 points, right? So if I'm a veteran and I've earned the VA home loan, why in the hell are you going to make me put 20% down so I could be considered a strong buyer because of the skin in the game? Are you serious?
So we're talking about a buyer with significantly better credit than an FHA, comparable credit to a conventional mortgage program, someone who has served our country and has a certain level of discipline instilled in them based upon that service. That seems like a pretty strong buyer to me. So Stephen, I want to move to you with the next point. Brad, thank you so much for sharing that. VA loans take longer to close, right? So talk about that, because again, the perception is, well, if I'm accepting this VA offer, is it going to take me 45 days, 60 days? Because I got 10 offers coming in down the street that tell me they can close in 30 days, right?
It's a good point. Again, go back to what Brad said. You can look up statistics. The average, I think it's almost 90-something% of all investors who are doing loans have VA authority, so that their underwriters are already approved. They're not doing a double underwrite every single time, which means that they have the timing going. The second thing is that VA appraisals are on a set timeline, versus if you're ordering a conventional or FHA, it's who's going to accept the offer, what's the timing that they want to get it done. In the St. Paul Regional Loan Center area, it's 10 business days plus 24 or 48 hours to upload the document once they accept the offer. So generally speaking, I have a couple that go late, just like everybody does for everything in general. But for the most part, I'm getting my appraisals back in 12 business days that I have to my underwriter. So because I know that's a fixed component, it allows me to keep a faster timeline. Brad, do you have the stats up in front of you? I mean, I know that
for closings.
Yeah.
Closing like the national average. The national average in 2020 was 28 days, and that's every lender across the country. Now it's an average, right? Between me and Michael Jordan, we share 3 NBA championships. All right, I mean it's an average, but you have, like me, if I'm going to go out and say I'm a VA home loan specialist, I need to execute on that, right? I'm not going to pull in business and say, hey, I specialize in VA loans, but then call Fish every 2 minutes. Hey, what is this? What is it? You know, like you have to execute on it.
Which,
right?
by the way, guys, that's only my privilege, the calling Fish every 2 minutes. So no one else go ahead and do that.
Right? I mean, there are times that I bounce things off AJ. He bounces it off me. You know, that's okay because you're just trying to brainstorm because that's the way the VA guidelines are. Right? But the more work you put in up front, the more you do up front, the quicker it's going to be to close, period. I mean, how many times have you had a loan fall out in processing? It's already been underwritten. Now they find a new property and that loan closes just like that. It's the same concept.
So again, just to recap this here, right? So we're talking about, we have the appraisers have guidelines or timeframes they have to follow.
Correct.
We're not sending these files out no matter what an inexperienced lender says, right? How many times do we have to say, hey, we got to get that sent over to the VA for review? Yeah.
There are times that it has to be done, yes, but it's very few and far between.
Right. For the most part, it's going to your same underwriter, again, that's in your office, you know, that's underwriting your FHA, that's underwriting your conventional. So it's based upon your ability as a mortgage professional to go ahead and create a file that's going to close and close quickly. These aren't loans that take an extra long time to go ahead and close. So, yep, very cool. So, all right, Fish, I know I've been taking this on, but again, I want you to actually have a chance to shine for once on this. And I think that the next slide that you've got coming up is really an important slide. And it's going to kind of, this is the one I really want you to handle right here because this has been your baby right here. So let's talk about kind of the presentation piece of this that, again, as mortgage loan officers, those of you who are mortgage loan officers that are watching this, when you're working with your client, working with the buyer's agent to go ahead and create an offer to present, what are some of the best demonstrated practices? What should they be doing? What should we be educating the other side of the transaction about?
All right. So just real quick, I know AJ has got to go in like 10 minutes here because he's a busy dude. So I'm going to take it, but we had already kind of planned here. We get to this section where we're talking about, you know, the skills of actually getting your offer accepted. We just gave you some background on how we need to educate ourselves first before we even jump into the arena. You know, we prepared, we've done the kicks, we've done the punches, we've learned as much as we could by being parts of communities and studying guidelines and talking about it ad nauseum, if you will. Now, all of a sudden, we're on stage. You know, we've got a veteran putting it off. Mute, or can everybody else do? So now, this is the meat of the call here. We got our veteran. They're putting their offer in. There's a bunch of other offers coming in. What are we going to do to help them shine? And, you know, this slide is just stuff. There's a lot of approaches. There's a lot of ways to get it done. I have things that I do. Steven has things he does. Alex has things that he does. I'm going to let AJ talk just for a minute because I know he's got to hop off the call here in just a couple minutes. AJ, can you share your particular approach? And then I'll do mine, and then the other guys can kind of talk about their approaches.
Yeah, so the biggest thing I do is I let the agents know. So I'm going to, in this case, pretend like Brad's the agent that's submitting the offer to the seller's agent. And I'm going to say, hey, Brad, do me a favor. I know you're getting ready to submit this offer for Mr. Brand. What time is the cutoff time for those offers? And he's going to say, hey, it's at what time, Brad? Give me a time.
Friday noon.
Friday at noon. Okay, awesome. Hey, do me a favor. Send me the agent's name and their phone number. Friday at 11:50, I'm going to call them and I'm going to go ahead and go over this with them. And so what I do is I set an alarm to remind myself that Friday at 11:50 to call them and say, hey, you know, Mr. Stinson, this is Alex over at Benchmark Home Loans. Just want to give you a buzz. Do what? I'm sorry.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, okay, good. This is Alex over at Benchmark Home Loans. I'm just calling you in regards to an offer. We have a mutual client that submitted an offer to you. His name is Mr. Brand. Mr. Brand is a veteran. I do want to let you know that this is what me and my team actually specialize in. We don't just say that. This is what we do. You know, we specialize in closing VA home loans. Actually, last year, my statistic was out of 209 loans that I closed, 97 of them were VA home loans. And so as you can see, we're very seasoned in it. More importantly, I do want to let you know that we have reviewed their income. We have reviewed their assets. They are very well qualified. They do have additional money for down payment if need be. But as you know, the VA home loan does provide 100% financing of the purchase price. Now, I know there's a ton of myths out there as it pertains to the VA home loan itself. One of the big ones that we constantly hear is the termite inspection has to be paid for by the seller. Here in Tennessee, that's actually not the case. That is a fee that can be paid for by the buyer. But Brad, if you don't mind, let me hear some of the things you may have heard so I can clarify those things to ensure that we're giving Mr. Brand a fair opportunity at home ownership, which he has fought to preserve and fought to earn.
So if I accept this offer on today, are we going to close soon, or am I anticipating a fall closing?
Well, let me ask you this, Brad. To you, what is a soon closing? Are we talking about the next 30 days? If that's the question, then absolutely.
That would be ideal.
What's that?
That would be ideal.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, statistically here at Benchmark, we close them with as early as 13 days, but the average has been about 21 days. So we can definitely deliver an on-time closing. The good thing is we've already collected all the documents up front, including the certificate of eligibility to ensure that Mr. Brand actually is eligible for the VA home loan itself. What else you got?
Well, isn't he a weak buyer? Is this deal going to fall apart?
Well, let me ask you this, Brad. For one, I want to say this. Our offers are as good as cash. And the reason why I say that is because we closed last year, 100% of the VA offers that we submitted, we actually closed. And let me sidetrack here. It is very important to know your metric on how many deals you close versus submission. And if they fell out, was it due to the borrower themselves? This is where you have to pride yourself on qualifying the client properly on the front end. So you can say things like 100% of my deals that I submitted a pre-approval on last year closed. And you're not lying, because the last thing you need is that person being like, well, actually, I was a seller on Mr. Smith and he didn't close and you happen to be the loan officer on it. So for me, I can deliver that. I can say that, hey, 100% of our VA offers that we submitted last year indeed closed, and they closed on time. And as far as weak buyer, hey, I get it. You're looking at this, you see government loan, you see 100% down. But let me remind you of something, Brad. This person took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America to allow us to do what it is that we do in practice every single day at any cost, including the cost of death. Does that appear to you as a weak buyer?
No, sir.
Exactly. So once you say that, just shut the fuck up and just let them talk. Because Did you see, like Brad and I are buddies, but did you feel that eerie silence? You were like, ooh, God. It's like I just kicked him in the nuts and I stepped back and said, hey, now what? It is our responsibility. Like, I'm not doing this to guilt Brad into accepting this offer. I'm reminding Brad that without these individuals, there's a 0 chance that we could sell real estate, close loans, or achieve the American dream. So let's remind Brad of that. Let's let him know, here's our stats. Here's what we do. Let's back it by facts. And then the last thing I would do is this. I'd say, so, any other questions or anything, Brad?
No.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, I really look forward to working with you and you accepting this offer. I know Mr. Brand's a great opportunity for both me, you, and the seller. I look forward to helping him get into your seller's home. And then I hang up.
Love it, Alex.
Now, a couple reasons why I do that right before offer cutoff time. I want it to be hot in his head, or her head, or whoever's head. I want them to be like, oh my God, yeah, this offer right here. Because when they're skimming through it, it is human nature to identify one you're comfortable and familiar with. And if that conversation didn't make him comfortable and familiar with what we do, there's not a whole lot of conversations that will. And so you do it right before the offers are accepted. You debunk some of the myths, because you never want them to come back and say, well, hey, Mr. Barker, we didn't accept Mr. Brand's offer because, our seller was going to net less money. No. Alex told you on that phone call that wasn't the case. So don't bullshit me. Tell me the real reason why we're not going to accept it. So all we're doing is building a case, building firepower. And at the end of the day, remember, if you are convicted that the people that earned this home loan indeed deserve it, you will deliver that in your message.
So, Alex, I know you might have to go. If you got to hop off. But I asked you to go first on purpose because you got a silver tongue, and that's your special skill.
Don't give him.
I know his head's big enough. I don't always sound quite as good as you on the phone, but I know that when I've spent time paying attention to these details, learning as much as I could, diving into the stats, some of the things we've talked about already in this call. I don't need a script. You know, I know some people in the comments are saying like, oh, I wish I had scripts for this. And it's okay to maybe have, you know, some bullets or PowerPoints or scripts to get started. But when it's conversational, because you actually know and you're convinced and you really truly practice what you preach, it's way easier to have these conversations with the agents. Now, TJ, I know you said, hey, Fisher, what's your angle? What's your secret sauce, if you will? One thing I like to do is make sure that as many local agents know me as possible, because I find it, you know, getting through all the rest of this stuff is a whole lot easier if they've already seen my face and they know my brand and they know that I can deliver. You know, like just like Alex ran out there with the stats, I can kind of go down the same path, but I like to preface it with, hey, agent, you've seen our team, you've seen us out there teaching, you've heard about how we love to serve veterans. You might have actually come to one of our classes or somebody else in your office did. I see that you work with Tina. Tina's been in our classes. Tina has actually worked on us on the VA loan before. If you want to ask her anything about, you know, how the transaction experience went, feel free. Hopefully she's right down the hall from you. So to do that, I had to arm myself with, you know, as much information as possible, PowerPoints and classes and things like that. And a lot of my friends, you know, pushed me and said, hey, Fish, you got to get out there and do this more. And I said, oh, I could have someone else do it. I could pay another LO to teach the class, or I can just show up to the class. But I promise you, when I started teaching the classes myself, when I was the one up on the stage that had to learn what I was talking about, all of a sudden my brand recognition locally went through the roof. And it got to the point where literally the VA loan I'm working on today, it's going to close next week, offer goes in, and the listing agent says, oh, I know you because, you know, I went to this class and you were with Brad and you guys were at Top Golf, and, you know, lo and behold, I didn't really remember the guy, but next thing I know, he's a listing agent on a deal that I got the buyer on, and the offer was selected over a bunch of conventional offers. Now, they had to go back and forth a little bit on net to the seller. And that's the piece that, you know, along with the things Alex mentioned, asking the open-ended questions, letting the agents talk, letting them kind of bring their objections to you, being armed with the right stats and you know, the right kind of conversation to handle or at least discuss those objections. Also, if you kind of get to the point where you can get the agents to just say, like, look, bottom line, if the seller nets the same or more money and it closes in the same or less time, is there any reason that this offer wouldn't move to the top of the pile? And that's my closer question. You know, when we go through all the other questions, you know, like Alex said, it's open-ended. When I get to the end of the call, I always ask the agent something like that.
Hey, Fish, not to interrupt you, I've got to run. I've got a 1 o'clock. Like Alexa's telling me now I got one, so I got to roll. Those of you that are watching this, veterans, thank you so much for your sacrifice. We appreciate everything that you've done to for our country. Know that you have people in your corner that have your back. We will do everything possible to make this happen, and educate as many realtors and loan officers as possible to make sure that you and your brothers and sisters are being taken care of the best way possible. So I got to go. Thanks again for having me, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, AJ.
Bye,
Man.
Yeah, Alex.
So Alex, you know, I like to say he has a silver tongue. Me, I kind of have an analytical approach, but I like to ask solid questions to get people to think. Brad, you're really good at this concept of you know, maybe making a video or putting something in writing. I think I put your cover letter on the screen here. Can you go through real quick your process, and then we'll, you know, maybe try to wrap this up because we're
yeah. So you know, the whole point of this call is how do you get an offer accepted, right? Because I mean, that's what's going on in the marketplace. Oh, you've got, you know, they're just not even looking at it. Well, you have to approach it as you're a team. It's not just them and you. You're a team, right? Again, I keep saying this. I'm the captain of the ship. I'm going to make sure that I direct this in the way that I want to go, right? Because you have two ways that a transaction can go. It can run you over, or you can run it, right? I refuse to be run over, so I'm going to try to run it as best as I can, right? So I set the precedent up front. Like, look, here's a pre-approval letter, and that slide had my old pre-approval letter on it, but it has 6 bullet points on it with all those myths and data directly from the VA Lender Conference, Ellie Mae stats, the VA website, wherever I can pull these stats from, I put them on there, right? One, it makes it easier on me so I don't have to make all these calls. the agent can read it. But in my market, the purchase contracts are written in a way that's derogatory towards a VA offer. There's 2 paragraphs on 2 separate pages that state the seller will pay for the pest and termite and for the title closing fee. Now, I turn those into positives. It's a coaching moment for me to lead the buyer's agents, and it's an opportunity for me to change a perception on the other side. Okay, so I coach them on how to present this. Like, look, we're going to modify the sales contract, so we have to make sure the listing agent understands this and properly presents it to their agent or to their client, right? So here's what you say, and I coach them through it, right? So when they're submitting offers, they usually call me and they're like, hey, I just want to make sure I got this right. So we role play through it, right? Like, hey, Mr. Listing Agent, we just submitted an offer on 123 Main Street. I just want to make sure that you received it, number one. But number two, there's 2 points that I want to talk to you about or address because we have modified the sales contract. Please take a look at page 2, paragraph 15, blah, 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 right? You're going to get the pushback because every listing agent's a diva, right? Oh, you can't do that with a VA loan. The seller has to pay for it, blah, 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 right? No, not true. We're working with a VA home loan specialist who structured the deal accordingly to allow our veteran client to pay for it. Oh, okay, well, you know, whatever. Well then, okay, one more time on page 4, paragraph 21, we've struck through this and both say the same thing. Now they're curious, how the hell can this guy do with this? Right? Because the whole point is to get me on the phone with that agent so I can overcome all their concerns, right? What typically has been happening lately is they call me. I don't call them, which is sweet, right? They're like, hey, number one, this is the greatest pre-approval letter I've ever seen. Number two, how the hell can you do this? Well, and then you just start rattling off your knowledge base. You know, like how is it possible for the veteran buyer to pay for the pest and termite? Well, it's because we did, you know, like go in the whole explanation. I'm not going to go into it now, right? But it's your knowledge base gets you through everything. As with anything in life, the more you know, the better off you are.
It's awesome, man. Steven, real quick, let's hear yours. We've heard from everyone else. When you're, working with a client to present the VA offer, what are you doing to make sure that your veteran client is at the top of the list?
Good question. One of the things that I do is I make sure that the buyer's agent are filling out the Minnesota or Wisconsin addendums correctly, where most of my business is done, and putting that 100% of the VA funding fee is going to be financed, have that set. And then I as well make a phone call, an outgoing phone call to the listing agent to introduce myself. If they don't know me, I'll let them know that the VA offer is strong, the COE is in hand, reviewed credit, income, assets. Talk about the fact that there's extra assets available because of not putting a down payment, just like has been mentioned, if that's the case. And some veterans, along with some conventional and FHA buyers, are getting a gift or using DPA programs, and they don't have, more than $1,000 at all. And that includes some veteran buyers as well. So we're not going to completely, say that every single veteran buyer's got an extra 50 grand laying around. But I present my buyers with the strengths that they have and make a call to the listing agent, outgoing. And again, I've never had a situation where the listing agent has been, mad because I've reached out to them. And it does give me the ability to throw stats and ask questions. Do you have any questions about the buyer, about the VA loan process? And it opens the door to have a conversation a lot of times because of the older myths. And sometimes you catch an agent who has been told incorrect things from their broker, or because they've been in the business maybe 20 years and they're just going by, well, I haven't done a VA loan in, 12, 15 years. Okay, well, things are very different now. And it allows you. Yeah, so it allows us to actually go in and educate the listing agents as well. But again, like Brad said, it's a team effort.
So common theme amongst the 4 of you, even though Alex is left here, is one, being a specialist, having the knowledge you have internalized this, you understand this, you are comfortable and you're passionate about your knowledge of the VA loan product. 2,
add one thing on that.
Absolutely.
One thing.
You can add 2 if you want to.
Yeah. Fisher hit on it. Your knowledge base. I built my knowledge base by video marketing, right? Mm-hmm. I have built my name, my brand on the fact that I know the VA home loan. I execute on the VA home loan. And now because I demonstrate that, when my name is on a pre-approval, it gets accepted over all other offers because they know, no shit, this loan is going to close.
Very good.
Close fast. It's going to do it on time.
Yep.
Right? So that's part of it too.
And they have to line with what you're doing when the offer's going out there. You're calling up the listing agent. You're making sure that you're demonstrating that knowledge. And all four of you mentioned that, right? And all four of you are extremely successful with this. So again, if you're someone that's reviewing offers, this gives you an idea of what you should be looking for here. So we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up here. But there's one thing that I'm going to go ahead and touch base on here, and then Fish, don't worry, you will still be able to talk some more because I know it's pain. It hurts you right now that you've had to be quiet for this long. But I have been, again, I said this at the beginning, I've been fortunate enough to watch this group and watch this team over the years as they have built not just themselves up and built this following, but actually seen them help not just veteran home buyers, but mortgage loan officers build bulletproof businesses that survive markets, that survive inventory shortages, interest rates going up. And they do it by creating people who are frankly just raving fans of this leadership group that follow their lead as far as becoming experts and specialists in the VA mortgage product, but more so truly believing in what they're doing and why they're doing it. So, and we're talking like I've seen Fisher take people like Brad and take them from 0 to 10 loans in 6 months. I've seen Fisher work with other people. It may be a shorter period of time. I've seen Fisher work with other people have just followed Fisher's example and his leadership and his instruction, and they've gone ahead and they've built careers where they're consistently closing double-digit loans, primarily based off of the VA mortgage loan product. So, Fish, I want to promote you a little bit here. If somebody wants to learn how to do this and build this business, and again, it can't just be because they want to make more money and close more loans, right? How do they connect with you guys? How do they learn about this? What is the step if they want to go ahead and actually build a business like the four of you?
All right, so here is the piece that we really kind of wanted to get to. Like you said, I'm itching to get here because I've definitely had some stuff to say. Ultimately, I got to add one thing to this before I kind of get into the end here, and it's no matter what you do as a loan officer, all this negotiation back and forth, the buyer seller, being an advocate for the vet, what have you. It's very important that you or somebody on your team is exceptionally good at taking a 1003 and getting documents. The reason that folks like Brad and Alex are able to perform at the levels that they do is that they've had leaders like myself and Andrew Paul basically cut them down when they were making mistakes and said, look, go back, read your guidelines, go back and get your documents. You're not a pro unless you know how to do your job. And sometimes your job is hard. It's selling the client on how important it is to get you the documents and not letting them proceed until they have the documents that you are going to need to close their loan on time. I see a lot of loan officers internalizing the problems that the client has and trying to get a loan in process without documents or without the credit score in order or without a COE or what have you. And it's such a stress on those loan officers. If they could take nothing away from this call other than that, I would tell them that, guys, get a good 1003, make sure it's perfect, get as many docs as you can. Now, outside of that, you want to be a VA specialist. You like some of the things that you saw today. You want to learn more. You want to be a part of the community with folks like Alex, Brad, myself, and more. We have working on creating a program here, and there's two things that kind of go with it. Item one, we're going to call ourselves the Veteran Lending Council. So if you see us talking about Veteran Lending Council, that's who we are. We kind of created this, 3 or 4 or 5 months ago and came together to try to be better. So if you hear about the Veteran Lending Council, that's who we are. You may see us posting in MLO Net or other places. The product that we're working on, the training that we talked about a little bit, maybe reference some of the things that we could teach, is going to be called Veteran Mortgage Advisor. If you want to hop on the wait list, you can go to veteranmortgageadvisor.com. Even that site's not totally done yet. You'll see there's a couple boxes that aren't filled out. But just plug in your name and your email and give us some basic information. We'll keep you posted on the status of our product. Originally, we really did want to launch it somewhere in April. I don't know for sure if we'll be done, but I promise you we got 6-7 gigabytes of video. These guys have been working hard to create training booklets and to record sections of the course, and et cetera, and it's coming soon. So, hopefully we'll have that for you guys within the next couple months. And, there's all kinds of questions that go with that. Will there be events? Will there be materials? Will there be, I'm just going to say yes. All those kind of things that we know loan officers like are going to be part of it. I'm not going to break down all the details for you today, but if you want more info, you want to stay kind of in the know, hop on our email list, and we'll circle back here and let you guys know what's going on as soon as we are further along and can get you more info.
Can you just give us a brief high-level overview of what this is? Like, what could be expected in this course or whatever?
Well, number one, you got to do the work. I think in the past, we've allowed loan officers to come in and train with us and perhaps be part of us without doing the work. We're not going to let anybody really use logos or say that they've actually gone through our training unless they've completed it and completed the tests. So there will be tests. There will be lots of material to go through. It's not something that you're going to be able to do in a day or two. It's going to probably take you a bit of time. Full disclosure, we've had some help from Barry Habib, show us how he modeled his trainings, and I believe he's kind of supporting us a little bit here on intellectual concepts. So, I know if you go take his course, it takes a while to get through, and you got to do a lot of tests and things like that. So it's going to be very, very similar. Now, at some point, you're going to go through and do all the work, and you're going to say, okay, well, what's next? We will have events that are related to what we're doing with the Veteran Lending Council and Veterans Mortgage Advisor. We got to get past, some of this COVID stuff's getting really close. But ultimately, people reach out to me all the time and say, when's your next event? When's your next training? And I've been really vague for the last 4, 5, 6 months about it and just said, hey, I got stuff coming soon. So, anybody that wants to reach out to me personally, I'll start talking more about it now. But I'm probably just going to tell you got to go on a wait list for a little bit of time for now. So.
And you'll be posting stuff in Mortgage Loan Officer Network, obviously, as this gets further along. So for anyone who's interested, definitely make sure you're in there because you'll keep folks up to date. Look, I'm just saying I've had the fortune, you guys may not know this, Steve, Brad, but Fisher's shared with some of the behind-the-scenes stuff with me. I've got a sneak peek at the content. It's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, you guys
all these things are worth wait.
You guys should be proud of yourselves for what you're putting together there. Anyone who's watching this, if you want to get it, it's going to be worth every single minute that you spend learning it because it is a great product. So, all right, well, we are well over an hour at this point. Not well, we're 10 minutes past an hour. So we are starting to drop off as we always do with eyeballs here once we hit that hour mark. Anybody have anything to kind of wrap up on here? Any last point they want to make that we didn't cover here today? It's the quietest I've ever seen the three of you. This is
amazing. We covered quite a bit, and it one of the slides, the buyer's presentation is everything. It's true. I mean, you have to approach this as a team. Establish dominance immediately. It's prison yard rules, right? Establish dominance right away, right? But you have to make sure that you do this as a team, because if you don't do it as a team, you're going to fail every single time.
My biggest quote unquote pitch in pretty much everything I do related to loan officers is that it's not about me. I mean, you talked about this a couple times in this call, TJ, and honestly, it's kind of my secret power is helping people break down the barriers of competition that are kind of in our DNA sometimes, and say, hey, let's get together for a common good. Let's join up. Let's join a community that's got solid leaders. I'll be the first one to say I don't know everything. I'm not the biggest PA producer in the country. I don't know all the guidelines. There's some people that know more than me for sure. But I'm in a great place to bring people together and get a team that's going to elevate the entire industry and anyone who wants to kind of go along with us. And, I didn't want to sit here today and talk about some of the problems that we see in the industry. We can do that on another day. But frankly, most of the lenders watching this call, we have to be better. The problem out there is a lack of education for a lot of the other loan officers. And, I see people complaining and saying, oh, like that lender thinks. Okay, well, you stink too because you didn't win the race to the veteran. You didn't get there first. Your message wasn't strong enough. Your marketing game needs to be worked on. So that's part of what we talk about when we do these kind of programs is how to get a bigger message, how to build a bigger team, how to help more people. It's not just what are the guidelines. It's how do you solve it from a high level? I want to be a VA specialist. I want to have a big team. I want to help as many people as I can. There's a lot that goes into it, and you need a lot of people on your team, and that's what we're doing here, bringing as many specialists as we can into one place to help as many people as we can.
Very good. Sebring, you get the last comment. What do you have to wrap this up, man?
I just mentioned it a little bit ago. All good things are worth waiting for. We're doing version 2 here of something great to continue to serve our veterans and all across the country. So we're excited about it. Use some of the things that we talked about today. Reach out to listing agents. Get to know some of the statistics on why VA loans are strong and the offers are strong, and help your veterans get into some homes right now. Make it happen.
Very good. Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing as much content as you have, as much time as you had. And thank you for everything that you guys are doing right now. So awesome job.
Thanks, TJ.
Thank you.